She wasn't supposed to be noticed, just the maid's daughter, quiet, invisible, living in the shadows of a billionaire's mansion. But one ordinary afternoon, she was asked to do something for fun, to sit at a piano she had never been allowed to touch. No one expected anything more than a few clumsy notes, a moment of amusement. Yet what happened when her fingers touched those keys would silence the room, shatter stereotypes, and leave a billionaire speechless. How could a single performance expose the deep scars of racism and reveal a prodigy the world almost never knew? For most of her young life, Maya lived in the background. She was the daughter of a maid, her mother working long, quiet hours in a mansion that was never truly theirs. While the billionaire's children had every privilege handed to them, Maya's world was defined by limits. She wore hand-me-downs, helped her mother clean, and kept out of sight when guests arrived. Music was her escape, though she had no piano of her own, just scraps of sound she memorized from an old radio and the distant melodies that drifted through the mansion's walls. To everyone else, she was invisible. But beneath that silence was a gift waiting to be uncovered, a gift that would challenge not only expectations, but the very prejudices that kept her in the shadows. Maya had always been told to know her place. The billionaire's home was filled with glittering chandeliers, marble floors, and grand halls, but for her, it was a cage of silent rules. Don't touch. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't be seen in rooms that weren't hers. She learned early that her presence was tolerated only because her mother worked there. One afternoon, the billionaire hosted a gathering of influential friends. The air buzzed with laughter, glasses clinking, and the soft echo of a grand piano standing proudly in the corner. Maya lingered nearby, carrying a tray for her mother, her eyes caught by the polished keys gleaming under the lights. She had dreamed of playing that piano, but the idea itself was almost dangerous, crossing an invisible line that separated them from her. Then it happened. With a smirk, one of the guests noticed her watching and made a careless remark. "Why don't you let the maid's daughter give us a little show, for fun?" The words carried weight, not an invitation but a joke, something to laugh about later. The room shifted, all eyes turning toward her. Some chuckled, others raised brows, curious to see her fumble. Maya's face burned. She knew it wasn't kindness. It was mockery dressed as amusement. Her mother stiffened beside her, whispering for her to step back, but the billionaire waved a hand. "Go on then," he said casually, as if offering scraps to a child. In that moment, Maya felt the sting of every unspoken rule pressing down on her. She was expected to be small, obedient, forgettable, to stumble through a few clumsy notes, proving once again that she didn't belong. But inside her, something stirred, a mix of fear, shame, and defiance. She had memorized melodies in silence for years, storing them in her mind like secrets. Her fingers itched with the need to prove, to herself, to her mother, to everyone, that she was more than what they saw. She sat at the piano. The polished surface felt cold under her trembling hands. Whispers rippled across the room, sharp and mocking. A woman in pearls smirked. A man snorted quietly, already amused at the performance to come. Maya's heartbeat thundered in her chest as she hovered over the keys, fighting the weight of every stare, every doubt. And then she pressed down. The first notes rang out, delicate but clear. The room fell still. Every second stretched long and heavy, the tension mounting with each note. No one expected her to last beyond a few shaky chords. Yet she continued, her hands moving with growing confidence, shaping music she had carried inside her for years. The smirks began to fade. Eyes widened. Murmurs spread across the room. What began as mockery was shifting into something else. Something Maya could feel building around her. But the moment wasn't safe yet. Not in a house where power, prejudice, and pride ruled every corner. The question hung heavy in the air. Would her talent be enough to silence the mockery, or would it only ignite something darker? The music poured out of Maya like fire and water all at once, raging and flowing, unstoppable. Her fingers flew across the keys, weaving melodies no one in that mansion thought possible. Each note was a declaration. I exist, I matter, I belong. For a fleeting moment she felt free, lifted above the stares, the whispers, the doubt. But then the silence broke. A sharp laugh cut through the air, harsh and dismissive. One of the guests sneered, "Enough of this nonsense, she's just showing off." Others shifted uncomfortably, torn between admiration and prejudice. The billionaire's jaw tightened, his pride stung by the idea that his party was being stolen by the maid's daughter. The weight of the room turned heavy again. Maya's mother stood frozen at the edge of the crowd, eyes wide with both fear and pride. She knew the danger of moments like this. Talent could inspire awe, but it could also provoke anger. In a world built on unspoken hierarchies, brilliance from someone who was never meant to shine could be seen as defiance. Maya hit the final chord, the sound echoing into stunned silence. For a heartbeat, it seemed as though the walls themselves held their breath. She looked up, her chest heaving, searching the faces around her for something. Recognition, respect, anything. Instead, the billionaire's voice cut through. Cold, clipped, dismissive. "That's enough. Back to your place." The command landed like a slap. Her gift, the one thing that should have elevated her, was dismissed as though it were nothing more than a child's trick. The crowd shifted again, some embarrassed, others complicit in their silence. Maya's heart pounded, shame and anger colliding inside her. She had given them her soul, and in return she was reminded of her place. But deep down, she also knew something had changed. The music had left a mark, whether they admitted it or not. And in that unbearable silence, one question lingered. Would they bury what they had witnessed, or would this performance become the moment that shattered their prejudice forever? Maya rose from the piano bench, her small frame trembling, but her spirit unbroken. The billionaire turned away, pretending her performance had been nothing more than a fleeting distraction. Guests returned to their conversations, their silence a shield against the discomfort of what they had just witnessed. But Maya knew the truth. Those notes were still echoing inside them, impossible to ignore. She had forced them to see her, even if they refused to admit it. For her mother, the moment was both heartbreaking and unforgettable. Pride glimmered in her eyes, but so did fear of the consequences that came with stepping beyond the invisible lines of race and class. They left the mansion that night the same way they had entered, unseen, uncelebrated, unacknowledged. Yet something had shifted. Maya carried with her a new certainty, that her gift was real, powerful, and bigger than the walls that tried to contain it. And this is where the story reaches beyond Maya. Because her struggle is not hers alone. It reflects the countless times Black talent, brilliance, and humanity have been dismissed, minimized, or silenced, not because of ability, but because of prejudice. How many prodigies, leaders, and visionaries has the world overlooked simply because they came from the wrong background? How many stories remain untold, buried beneath injustice? Maya's performance was more than music. It was a reminder that greatness does not ask for permission, that talent knows no color, no class, no boundaries. And yet society still draws those lines every single day. The question now is simple. How many more voices will we silence before we finally listen?